Hello and welcome. So today, guys, I have a really fun video for you because I'm sure that much like me, you have a group of fragrances that are like always in your cart at different retailers, but you put them in the cart, you take them out of the cart, you put them back in the cart, you take them out of the cart, and you never really pick them up. But I have today for you 6 fragrances, and out of those 6 fragrances, I have some samples and I have a couple of bottles that I did pick up. And today I just want to share with you my thoughts on all of these fragrances, the ones that I picked up and the ones that I have some samples of and that I have been testing. And then, of course, as always, I will let you know, in my opinion, is it a must, a maybe, or a complete miss? But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and I'm your fragrance concierge because I am totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos multiple times a week, and in this channel, we love to talk about fragrances, whether they're Western niche, Middle Eastern, designer, affordable, scented body products, it doesn't matter. We just want to smell fabulous at all times. Now, if that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go, fam. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start with a fragrance and a fragrance house that I have never tried, and I don't have not even one bottle of this fragrance house. And it is, I think you pronounce it Liis, because it's Liis. And I've heard many good things about it, but I've never tried one of their fragrances. And this year, they launched a fragrance by the name of Choux. And number one, I am loving that name, but I've heard so many great things about it. Now, I do have here a sample that was sent to me, and I have been playing with it, and I have some thoughts. So let's go ahead and talk about Choux. All right, so as I said before, Choux was launched in 2024, and this is one of those fragrances that I've had in and out of my cart like 20 times, guys. At one point, I even entered my credit card information and was just going to press order, and I stopped and took it all out. And let me tell you what my hesitation is. So I did use this entire sample. And while the fragrance smells lovely and it does perform well, it's not a beast mode fragrance. It's not designed to be one, and I'll talk about that in a minute. What I'm finding with Choux, guys, is that it's reminding me a bit too much of Theodoros Kalatini's Lemon Tart, which you guys know I have in my collection. Then also a couple of fragrances that you guys know that I love, which are Devotion Intense and the OG Devotion. Now, at this point, guys, I have quite a large collection, and I'm not trying to add fragrances that have similar scent profiles or that almost smell the same to me. But I will tell you though, Choux is a bit different than those fragrances because I find it to be a bit more refined. It is smoother. It's almost like a clean girl gourmand, which I have heard a couple of people say that, and I totally agree. It is like a clean girl aesthetic type fragrance, and I am here for it. But for some reason, I have just never placed the order. So to me, Choux is not really a unisex fragrance. It's really more of a feminine fragrance. And, Choux may have its place in my collection, when I really think about it and consider it, because at the dry down, Choux is reminiscent of like a lemon pastry cream pie. And it smells beautiful. It is definitely a gourmand, but it's not as, and I don't want to be bad because I don't want you to think that it's that Devotion is not a refined fragrance. It is, in my opinion. But Choux, like I said before, gives you more of that clean girl aesthetic vibe, and I'm really enjoying that. So where I would not necessarily wear Devotion Intense or the OG Devotion to a formal event or a very dressy event, I would definitely wear Choux because of that smoothness, right? And I also think that this is a fragrance that you could pull off all seasons of the year for any occasion, day or night, because again, it has that clean girl aesthetic. I mean, some people may even choose to make it their signature scent. I typically don't use gourmands as my signature scent, but for someone who would like to do that, I think Choux is the perfect fragrance. All in all, guys, I think I am at some point going to order it because I keep going back and forth. And to be honest with you, this little sample is not enough to really allow me to evaluate a fragrance fully, because it's been my experience that once I receive a full bottle and I try it and test it, it typically gives me a totally different feel, vibe, and experience than what I get from like a little tiny 2 ml sample of a fragrance. Let us know if you've tried Choux or any of the Liis fragrances, because I am looking forward to getting a couple of decants of a couple of the other fragrances that they have in their portfolio. Anyway, let me know if you've tried Choux. So in conclusion, Choux for me is a maybe. All right, guys, so the next fragrance that I have for you today is Vanilla Powder by Matiere Premier. Now, guys, I'm sure you've all heard of Vanilla Powder because Vanilla Powder was launched in 2023 and there is a serious cult following for this fragrance, and I don't blame you because Matiere Premier creates fragrances that are absolutely beautiful. There's that, I think it's called Crystal Saffron, that's also on my list, and I own Radical Rose and I absolutely love it. And then there's also Encens Suave. There's just so many beautiful fragrances by Matiere Premier. And of course, Vanilla Powder is a fragrance that really did capture the heart of many people. Now, I have to tell you, so I have had decants, samples, I've gone in store to sniff Matiere Premier, I've sprayed it on skin, I have tested it for several days, and for some reason, guys, I have not to this day picked up a full bottle of this fragrance. So I have here now a decant that was gifted to me, like this little tiny decant. And then I also have a couple of these tiny samples that were sent to me with the purchase of another fragrance. But I have to tell you, I don't know what is it that's holding me back about this fragrance. But let's talk a little bit more about Vanilla Powder. So if I'm honest with you, I do really like the fragrance. I really do. But something that really is kind of a little bit disturbing for me is that, at least on my skin, right, within the olfactory journey, I pick up on a tad of an animalic note. And while I love an animalic accord in a fragrance, in this one, there is something that's just not fully agreeing with me. But the thing is that doesn't last, throughout the wear of the fragrance. It gives me a beautiful dry down, which I'll talk about now in a minute. But honestly, guys, I'm just not sure. And this is an expensive bottle. I mean, it's not as pricey as other fragrances that I'm even going to discuss with you today, but it is definitely, a fragrance that I want to make sure that I'm going to like it. And more than like it, that I'm going to love it and pull it if I add it to my collection. Because as you guys know, I have a pretty large collection, which of course includes a lot of great vanilla fragrances. And I just don't want to pick this one up and just have it sit there, or then eventually have to declutter it or gift it to a friend or a family member. I just want to make sure that this is something that I want to do. But I'm telling you, I've had it in and out of cart like 50 times for, I would say, a year now. So Vanilla Powder is definitely a fragrance that I consider to be unisex. And if I had to pick a lean, I would say it leans a tad to the feminine side. But if you're a gentleman and you're looking for a different vanilla fragrance, not your regular vanilla fragrance, not your regular gourmand vanilla fragrance, then Vanilla Powder is a fragrance that I really encourage you to get your nose on, because it is a very different vanilla fragrance. I have to tell you that one of the most prominent notes for me with this fragrance is the note of Palo Santo. And in my opinion, that Palo Santo takes the fragrance to a totally different level. The other thing is that, that coconut note, for me, it's what brings the powderiness to the fragrance, because it's not, at least on my skin and to my nose, it's not like a creamy coconut. No, it's like a powdery coconut. And I know that they have shared that there's a couple of notes of coconut. There's a coconut powder accord, and then there's a coconut note. And I have to tell you, I don't necessarily pick up what I typically pick up when a fragrance has coconut. I pick up a powdery coconut, but I also love it. I'm here for it. All in all, this is a fragrance, guys, that sometimes I do wear it and I'm absolutely in love with it. And at other times I wear it and I'm loving it, but loving it a little bit less than the last time I wore it. So I'm like confused. I don't know. All right, guys. So while I was speaking about vanilla powder, I convinced myself, I influenced myself, and guess what happened? Yes, she placed the order. So it's too late now. I ordered a 100 ml bottle and I'm very excited about it. I'm really looking forward to receiving it, because I have to tell you guys, I just do not like to make decisions on fragrances from a 2 ml little sample or from a 5 ml, decant. It's for me, it's not the same experience as spraying that full bottle. So as soon as I receive it, and I have the opportunity to test it a couple of times and wear it outside of the house, I will circle back with you and let you know my thoughts on vanilla powder. But for now, of course, since I just ordered it, I have to tell you that I think it's a must. And to me, it is a must for the reasons that I stated before. This is a totally different vanilla fragrance than anything else that I have in my collection, and I'm really excited about it. Let us know if you have tried vanilla powder or if you picked up a bottle. All right, guys, so the next fragrance that I want to discuss with you is from a fragrance house that I think you guys know that I absolutely love, because I have dedicated videos for several of their fragrances. And there's 3 fragrances within their entire range that I absolutely love and that are lifers for me. So I'll start with Vibrato. So of course, you now know I'm talking about Sospiro. I absolutely love Vibrato. I also love Bel Canto. Bel Canto is not one that I hear a lot of people talk about, but I absolutely love that fragrance. And just recently, in I think the Cherry video, I shared with you Prima Donna. And then of course, guys, there is the number 1, which is Dolce Melodia, which is absolutely beautiful. That is such a high compliment getter. But anyway, so today I want to talk to you about their latest launch. I think it's their latest launch still. And this one is Dolce Sonata. So I've been playing with Dolce Sonata for maybe about a month. I mean, since it was launched, because I immediately made sure that I had myself a little tiny sample. And while I really don't like testing fragrances using this little thing, because I can't even spray it the way I like, it's like I have to dab it, and I don't know, there's just something that I lose with that experience. But anyway, Dolce Sonata for me was a high hope, because I love the Sospiro DNA. And, while I was not very impressed, to be honest with you, with Maraschino Cherry, I really thought, well, you know what, let me give Dolce Sonata a try. And I've also heard a couple of other content creators that I highly respect talk about Dolce Sonata with a great love. But guys, I have to tell you, I am not impressed at all. To be honest with you, it's almost been like a disappointment for me, because I was so excited about trying this fragrance and then picking up a bottle and adding it to my collection. But let's talk a little bit more about what Dolce Sonata gives us. So this is a fragrance that opens up very, very sweet and fruity. At that, it also has a very, I wouldn't say dominant, but a very present citrus accord. So you're going to get that citrusness, which gives it a tad of freshness in the opening. And it's also a very smoky fragrance, which we're going to talk about in a minute. There are some florals, and it can be a tad warm spicy, at least to my nose. Now, while the opening is absolutely beautiful, and I have to tell you, when I first sniffed it, I almost got up immediately and ordered a bottle. And there was just something, you know how your gut typically tells you, caution, move with caution. Well, that's what happened. I decided that I was going to wear it at least for a half a day before ordering it. And I have to tell you, I had to convince myself to walk away from my laptop to not order the fragrance because the opening is just exquisite, guys. But here's the thing, at least on my skin and to my nose, midway through the olfactory journey, you start to pick up on a hint of incense because I don't get the incense immediately in the opening. No, in the opening, I have come to recognize that there is a tad maybe of smokiness, like a smoky accord, but not much. But midway through the olfactory journey, I get that incense clearly. And while I do enjoy a good note of incense in a fragrance, I just think it's too much incense, at least on my skin and to my nose, in this fragrance. But in addition to that, what really sealed the deal of no can do for me on this one is that in the olfactory journey, when the florals come in, I pick up clearly on the osmanthus. And the osmanthus is kind of dominant for a bit, with the incense also being dominant. And for me, that was like a absolutely not. Oh, no. This is not for me. And just thinking about it, I just can't. So this is not a fragrance that's going to be for me. If you like fragrances that are super ultra smoky and you love osmanthus, then maybe this is one that you should give a try. But I really think that this is not a mass appealing fragrance for sure. And this is a fragrance that I really think you should get your nose on before you try it. So I'm a little bit sad because maraschino was not a love for me. I was just not impressed with that fragrance. You know, for a cherry fragrance coming from Sospiro, I expected, you know, bordering on beast mode kind of, and it was just a disappointment. And now this one, you know, and I shouldn't say that I'm disappointed in this one. It's just not for me because the accords and some of the notes involved are just not my cup of tea. So yeah, so this is a definitely miss for me. All right, guys. So the next fragrance that I want to share with you today is one that I did pick up a bottle. So for me, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a must. And this is also, of course, a 2024 release, and it is a gourmand. We've had so many gourmands this year that I'm about to close my wallet when it comes to gourmand fragrances, because while I enjoy a gourmand, I don't want to make my collection, you know, be a bit too heavy on the gourmands, because I like a good balance, a good curated collection of fragrances. And to be honest with you, there's been great gourmands, but I just don't want to buy every single gourmand. So I'm being very careful. But I have to tell you that when I first heard about this fragrance, when I heard that this fragrance was being launched, this is one of those situations where I tell you, I did not need a sample. Nope, I did not need a decant. Absolutely not. And I really didn't even want to hear a review because I just knew that I was going to pick up the full bottle and immediately. And I'm speaking about Narcotica, and this one is Love Me Latte. Oh my goodness, guys. This is a radical and absolute love for me. But let's talk a little bit more about Narcotica and Love Me Latte. So when it comes to Narcotica, I have several of their fragrances at this point, and what I appreciate about the DNA of this fragrance house is that, at least to me, their gourmands are not just any type of gourmand. They're quite complex, and I enjoy a complex olfactory journey where you can't really guess much of anything because it's been done so magnificently. That's how I feel personally about Narcotica. Their gourmands are different, and I am here for it. With that being said, you know, I have in my collection Narco Oasis, which I have right here. And I also have Dolce Diablo. And, you know, of all of the bottles that I have to date, Narco Oasis is my favorite, and it's still my favorite. I just absolutely love this fragrance, but I'm not going to talk about that. Now, Love Me Latte. So You guys know, if you've been with me for a while, that I'm very peculiar and particular when it comes to the note of coffee in a fragrance, because if there's one thing I do not want to smell like is coffee. And I love it when the fragrance has the note of coffee and it has been blended really well. And I saw this fragrance and I thought to myself, coming out of Narcotica, this is going to be intense, but I am still going to give it a shot. Worst case, I'll just sell the bottle. But guys, when I received this bottle and I sniffed it, this is just perfection. This is a gourmand, guys, that in my opinion is not as complex as other Narcotica fragrances like Happy Dust and Dolce Diablo. And you know, it's not as complex, but it's not a linear fragrance. It's just that it has been done in a specific way, and I don't even know how to explain it, but for me, it is a bit different. Fragrance to me is also a cherry-centric fragrance. And I'm going to tell you right now that even though the fragrance is called Love Me Latte, I'm not getting latte from it. And I'll tell you in a minute what I am getting clearly at the dry down. I'm not getting latte at all. The fragrance opens up very sweet, and it is also fruity. You can pick up on the caramel, and we're going to talk more about the caramel in a minute. It is a bit woody. It is also a lactonic fragrance, but not excessively lactonic, even though I love a lactonic accord. But this one is just like lactonic, not a little bit, not too much, just very well balanced lactonic. And then you have that cherry note, which for me is very juicy. It's not a dark cherry. And some people may say that the cherry is a dark cherry, but no, I don't think it's the cherry that's dark. I think it's the caramel that brings that kind of feel or vibe of darkness to the fragrance. But let's talk more about that. Now, when this fragrance opens up, as I said before, it does open very sweet and it does open fruity. But let's talk about that fruitiness. So for me, it is not like a regular fruity. It is a very dominant note of fig. But here's the thing about that fig. That fig for me is completely caramelized. So the caramel paired with the fig, they are very, very dominant in that opening. And honestly, they are with me all throughout the olfactory journey. At times it is a bit more intense than others, but I am getting that fig all the way. So if you are not into fig fragrances, into fragrances that have a dominant note of fig, then this is not for you. Now, the saving grace to that very dominant fig note, caramelized fig note, is the cherries. Because the cherries, as I said before, are very realistic to my nose, and they're like very juicy kind of. And in addition to that, something that I do want to caution you on is the fact that when it comes to the note of coffee in this fragrance, what I pick up is like a bit of a burnt coffee bean. So if you've ever like roasted coffee beans, there is a scent to that. And what I get is a burnt coffee bean, not like a little bit of a roast or no. I get a burnt coffee bean, and that may be off-putting to many people. So I'm just letting you know. But you know, when it comes to Narcotica fragrances, guys, I never recommend that you just pick them up. This is definitely a fragrance house that I'm telling you creates exquisite, masterful gourmands, in my opinion. But they are not mass appealing. They're not designed to be mass appealing. They're designed to give you a true olfactory experience. And that is what you're going to get with Love Me Latte. Now, Love Me Latte is a musk-based fragrance. And at that, you know, if you're not into musky fragrances, don't be too concerned on that, because I would say it's like a level 2 out of 5. And, you know, it has Gaiac wood. And I would say that I pick up on a very faint oud note, but it's very, very faint. I may be totally wrong, but I am picking up on a very, very faint oud note that I think will be negligible. And for most, you won't even pick it up. But I am picking up on that. Other than that, guys, the fragrance performs beautifully. It does give me a full day wear. I have not received compliments with the fragrance, but I know that it has a sillage of maybe about 2 feet. It's not like a powerhouse of a sillage. You are going to get a strong projection during the first 90 minutes of wear of the fragrance. And, you know, although the projection is not too strong and the sillage is not strong, I do really enjoy wearing the fragrance. And it is the type of fragrance that will end up being a skin scent, but it's a skin scent that will give you whiffs of the fragrance all throughout the day. You are going to be sniffing yourself all day. And the fragrance smells so absolutely delicious, guys, that you just can't help but just absolutely love wearing the fragrance. Like most Narcotica fragrances, at least in my experience, this one is also quite addictive because it just smells so absolutely yummy. Let us know if you've tried Love Me Latte and your thoughts. Needless to say, you know, I picked up a full bottle of this fragrance, so I would say that it is a must. All right, guys, so the next fragrance that I want to share with you is a fragrance that I have not picked up the full bottle, and, you know, I'm going to give you all the details of what's happened with this one, but this has been a very interesting experience for me, guys, because wait until I tell you the story, because I have to tell you this story for sure. You're not going to believe this. So 1907 is a fragrance that was launched by Boadicea The Victorious, which you guys know is a fragrance house that I absolutely love. And I was visiting Neiman Marcus, you know, on the regular. I just go to Neiman Marcus and sniff fragrances and see what's coming up and what's new. And you know, and I was there and my essay told me, you know, try this fragrance because I know you're going to love it. And she had me sniff, and then she applied on skin 1907. And from the first moment I sniffed it, I absolutely loved it. I mean, if they would have had it in stock, I would have picked up the fragrance that same day. And this is a very pricey fragrance. It's above $600, guys, but it is a scent that is absolutely beautiful. So let me tell you a little bit about the fragrance before I continue with the story. So as I said, 1907 is a new release in collaboration with Neiman Marcus by Boadicea The Victorious. And what it is they're celebrating, Boadicea and Neiman Marcus are celebrating their working together through so many years, because the first year that they worked together was 1907, which is why the name of the fragrance is 1907. Now this fragrance comes in a bottle, guys, that just the bottle alone makes you want to take it home. But when you spray the juice, it is going to rapture you immediately. It is designed to make you pull out your wallet and just pick up the fragrance and run. And again, I would have picked it up that day at Neiman if it weren't because it was out of stock. I think that it came out at the beginning of 2024, and there were only like because it's a limited edition, there were a very limited number of bottles. It sold out immediately, and now there's another batch that's coming, and I think it's November 24th, if I remember correctly, when if I place an order today, they would ship it, because that's when they're going to have it again. And I'm not sure that the bottle is going to make it to stores. I'm pretty sure that it's more of an online type of thing, but I may be totally wrong. This is a fragrance that is very aromatic, and it opens as such, and it's also warm, spicy. With that warm spiciness, what I get primarily is cinnamon, and it does have a powdery dry down. It's not an excessively powdery dry down, but it is definitely a powdery dry down. In addition to that, it is very ambery, and it is a musk-based fragrance. But all in all, it's a very exquisitely blended fragrance that has the vibe and the smell of wealth. Truly, guys, truly, it is a fragrance that is so beautiful. So my essay gave me a little decant. You know, one of these, I think this is a 5 ml. And I tried the fragrance at home. Now, remember, I had tried it in store before, okay? And when I tried it in store, you know, it was on my skin. I walked around. Oh my goodness, I wanted the bottle. And something kept telling me, just make sure, because this is very pricey, make sure, like, honestly guys, if I would have picked up that bottle, then that means that I wouldn't have been able to pick up a couple of other fragrances, right? Because it's not like I have an unlimited budget. But I really was very, very impressed, very in love, and the bottle was just so beautiful. When I tested this fragrance at home, guys, I don't know what happened, but I knew that I had smelled something very similar in my collection. I could not put my finger on it. I pulled several fragrances and they were not the same at all. They weren't even similar at all. But I just knew that this scent profile was somewhere in my collection. So I started to do some research, and I was not getting, anybody to talk about that it reminded them of something. Guys, then I found, I can't remember where it was, but someone was talking about how it reminded them of a Stefan Humbert Lucas fragrance. And I promise you, I did not even finish reading, right? When I ran and I went to my Stefan Humbert Lucas section and I pulled, nonetheless, God of Fire. Now guys, I can't tell you, I can't tell you how shocked I am, because I just wish I could spray this one and spray from the decant that I have of 1907 and give it to you so that you can see how these two fragrances are almost the same. At least to my nose, there is not even a negligible difference. So for me, it was like, oh my goodness. And I feel that I have to share that with you because while I feel that 1907 is a fragrance that is exquisite and there is a refinement in it and a tweaking of certain notes that you don't find in this one, and there is a bit of a sharpness in this one that you don't find in 1907, if I'm honest with you, I don't know if I can justify picking up a $600 plus fragrance when there is another one in my collection that is so similar to it. So that alone tells you that for me, 1907 may be more of a maybe, bordering on a miss at this point, because there are so many other fragrances that I have on my list. And I don't know, guys, I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure how I feel fully about that discovery. But anyway, guys, I just really had to share that with you guys because, we have to be transparent, and I just want you to know of that experience. And I found that rather interesting because we talk about Middle Eastern fragrances all the time. But yeah, anyway, guys, moving on, guys. So I left this fragrance for last because this is a fragrance that has been so hyped, and it went viral. And I've heard so many other content creators that I really respect talk about this fragrance. And I never got myself a sample or a decant. I just, I don't even know what to tell you of how I felt or what was it that was going on with me in this fragrance. But anyway, I'm speaking about Cirque du Soleil. Oh my goodness, guys. Oh my goodness. Now, we've had so many gourmands this year that I'm a little bit put off every time I see yet another gourmand being launched. But this one is one that was launched months ago. And I had it in my cart, guys, at so many different occasions. And just recently, I saw it, I think it was Lucky Scent, and I'm like, okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and do this. And I have to tell you, I wish I would have picked this up before. This is truly an incredible gourmand. So Cirque du Soleil, of course, was launched as part, I'm sure you are all familiar with Cirque du Soleil. And Cirque du Soleil is a production that I absolutely love. And we've been to so many of their shows that at this point we're like, okay, we're not going to go to another one. But you end up going anyway because they are just so talented, and it's such a great experience. Now, when I heard that they launched this fragrance, I thought to myself, very interesting. And then when I heard that it was a gourmand and I looked at the notes, I thought, oh, this is going to be a playful kind of fragrance. I was so wrong. This fragrance is not designed to be playful. This fragrance is designed to put you in the experience moment of when you are somewhere in a theater or somewhere looking at one of their performances, because that's what you're going to feel. This fragrance is, of course, sweet. It is a definite gourmand. I'm going to tell you in a minute what it smells like to me for sure. And it is a fragrance that has a very dominant note of caramel, which touches on different things, and I'm going to tell you in a minute. It does have that very strong caramel, and it is very sweet. So you have to really enjoy a sweet fragrance. In addition to that, it is a lactonic fragrance. Is it very lactonic? No, but it is definitely a lactonic fragrance. So if you are not into lactonic fragrances, then this is for sure not for you. Another note, of course, that takes control of everything is that note of vanilla. And I have to tell you guys, it is definitely a gourmand that I'll tell you right now, for me, it's like a must, because let me tell you what this smells like to me. So for me, this is like, I went to the fair and I decided that I was going to live my best life. Forget healthy choices, forget dieting, forget nutrition, anything. I am going to live my best life. And I started by having a candied caramel apple. Oh my goodness. I get that like immediately. Then, in addition to that candied caramel apple, I passed by the popcorn stand and I could just smell the butter, like the decadent butter all over that popcorn. So I picked up a bucket. I actually sat my candied caramel apple on top of the buttered popcorn as I continued to walk through the fair. Then, of course, how do you go to the fair and not have some cotton candy? So then I picked up a big wok of cotton candy and added it to my very buttered popcorn, where it's almost like dripping when you put the popcorn in your mouth. And of course, my candied caramel apple. Last but not least, how could you not have a good like caramel sundae made with like vanilla ice cream? Not any other ice cream, no, like a vanilla ice cream caramel sundae. Ooh, yummy. Yes, that is what this fragrance smells like to me. Like I'm at the fair and I picked up everything, put it all on a table somewhere, and I just started to eat it all. And I could get the scent, the sniffs of all of those things together. That's what I get in this fragrance, and I am loving it. This is a fragrance, guys. Gourmand fragrances do not make me hungry, and I've heard people say that from time to time, but that's not my experience. But this one, oh no, this one makes me very hungry. This one makes me go find a fair somewhere and get all that. And you know, I could even see you pick up like a funnel cake at the fair and have it with that vanilla caramel sundae, because oh my goodness, I'm telling you, this fragrance brings everything together. So this is a fragrance, guys, that is such a fun but not juvenile kind of fragrance, but I think it's perfect for any age, any occasion. If you want to go to a ball and smell like you were at the fair, well then go for it, because this fragrance does also perform very well. And while I have not received any compliments because I've only worn it like a couple of times, it is a fragrance that as soon as you spray it, you're going to be asked, you know, what are you wearing? Because I see that you're not eating anything, but I can smell all of this on you. That's the type of reaction that you are going to get. And this is also a fragrance that has no oud, no musk, so it's very wearable, very manageable. It is just a very easy pull fragrance, especially for the seasons of fall and winter. Is this a fragrance that you could use during the spring? Absolutely. Is this a fragrance that you could use during the summer? Absolutely. I just would not wear it on a very, 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 very hot day because it is quite a bit. Because when I tell you that it is that decadent as I described with all of those different types of yummy foods, that's exactly what you're going to get. Now, as far as I'm concerned, guys, if you are into gourmand fragrances, this is a must. If you are into sweet vanilla fragrances, this is a must. If you want a fragrance that will definitely give you the warmth and the feel that you get when you have things like a buttered popcorn and a good sundae, this is a must. Now, if you are not into gourmand fragrances, not even a bit, this is definitely not for you. If you do not like gourmands that make you smell like food, then this is also not for you. All right, guys, so we have reached the end of today's video, and I hope that this was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, because I have to tell you, these 6 fragrances have been such an adventure for me, because these are truly 6 fragrances that I have had in my cart, guys. Some of them were in my cart for months at different retailers, and others, you know, I just knew immediately that I wanted them. But receiving the full bottle of at least the Narcotica Love Me Latte and the Cirque du Soleil was just such a delight for me, because while they're both gourmands, they are very different, and I enjoy them so, so much. They are true loves for me. Now, the other fragrances, guys, I am very much looking forward to receiving Vanilla Powder and experiencing it from a full bottle. And if I had to be a guessing girl, at some point I'll probably order Choux, because it is so different. Even though it's very similar to Lemon Tart and a Devotion from Dolce & Gabbana, I have to tell you that it is just a clean girl gourmand, and I think I'm enjoying that. Anyway, guys, let us know your opinion if you've tried any of these fragrances or you've picked up a full bottle of any of them. And as always, thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.